Alabama, in a really cool matchup, little SEC Big Ten again here, is going to Camp Randall to play Wisconsin. And when you look at this game, and I want to say this about Alabama first, I've been inundated with messages from Alabama fans. Should we be worried? Should we be worried? Alabama still has really, really, really good players. But even having really, really good players, if you do not play clean, if you are super penalized, if you turn the ball over, you're going to survive games most of the time against teams you're better than. But that's not what Alabama fans want. Alabama fans don't really care about the 30-point win over USF. The standard at Alabama is to win a national championship. And to win a national championship, Alabama is going to run into rosters, whether it be Georgia, whether we can go down the list of teams, and Texas, that are equal to better than theirs. And if you play as sloppily as Alabama has played in the first 2 weeks, you are not going to win those games. You're not going to just be able to out-talent everybody that you play. Even when Nick Saban had more talent than everybody that he played, they would beat you with organization. That's what made the dynasty. So when I look at Alabama going up to Wisconsin, they should win this game. Mm-hmm. Alabama's more athletic. Tyler Van Dyke, don't trust him. Told you before the year how much we didn't trust him. And Wisconsin's offense is still pretty bad. Luke Fickell's going to have a great plan defensively. I do not question whether Wisconsin will know where to be, will know who does what, and will know what they're looking at. But it's one thing to know what I'm looking at. It's another thing to be able to stop it, right? I can tell you what Christian McCaffrey's probably going to do when he gets the ball. I'm not stopping Christian McCaffrey if he gets the ball. So Alabama should win this game. But Wisconsin, to me, their only hope is that Alabama will continue to make devastating penalties at devastating times and turn the ball over at a rate and make bad decisions at a rate that can keep Wisconsin in the game long enough to find a way in the fourth quarter to win it. Just keep it close enough. But David, I'm going to be honest with you, outside of the Green Bay Packers roster, if they will just let Jalen Milroe do his thing and run him the way they need to run him, I know it's risky, but he's built really, really well. He's not like Jaden Daniels that's 180 pounds. I don't think outside of the Green Bay Packers roster, there's a person in Wisconsin that can tackle some of these cats, Alabama.
All the talent that Alabama needs is there, right there in the building. 20 penalties in 2 games and 4 turnovers in 2 games. That's the thing that Kalen DeBoer is going to be harping on in Malmore Fieldhouse this weekend. You can't commit 13 penalties against South Florida, especially when you're at home. Now, from people in the outside of college football world, they'll look at Alabama playing South Florida close and being up by 1 or whatever it was early in the fourth quarter and say, oh, that's bad yet again. I just don't think they understand how this South Florida team is built and how this is what they do. They really punch above their weight, and we got to look at that schedule because that could be the group of 5 team that ends up making the playoff. That schedule is really, really tough. But we'll talk about South Florida more later. I just think that those final 4 drives, 4 touchdowns in a row for Alabama, like that's what they're capable of when they're really moving, when they're really cooking. It's not always going to be like that. You're going to hit adversity. But a lot of teams lose that football game. A lot of teams that commit 13 penalties and turn the football over 3 times lose that football game. They don't win it 42-16. I think Alabama's going to get back right and have a field day against Wisconsin.
And Blaine, what a high-class problem to have that even when you play messy, and you can ask Auburn fans this, Hugh Freeze just talked about it, you're still able to find a way to win by 27. Yeah. But I will say this about South Florida. The defensive plan from Todd Orlando was one of the best that I've seen, attacking Alabama with what he did, the way they were able to mix it up from a showing pressure and bringing it, showing pressure, not bringing it, giving you different looks. Jalen didn't look comfortable. Even the receivers at some points, I know it opened up wide lately, but South Florida can't throw the ball. No. Now, having said that, I don't think Wisconsin can throw the ball or run the ball.
Well, they could throw it at a little bit better clip than South.
Oh, well, a little bit better, but Tyler Van Dyke in that pocket, man,
the biggest thing I took away from this game, this Alabama team was penalized heavily last year with Nick Saban.
They were.
If you remember that.
2 years.
I have never seen a team play against Alabama and Alabama know what they're going to do and not be able to stop it. South Florida ran it down Alabama's throat. 200-plus yards of rushing, and they knew it was coming.
Yeah, everybody did.
So if I'm worried about anything, the offense will figure it out. You had huge holding penalties on huge big plays.
With a backup tackle.
With a backup tackle, you'll get that fixed. But if I'm worried about anything, all right, South Florida showed up, told you what they're going to do, and you couldn't stop it. And there's a couple teams out there, probably more than two, that can do both extremely good. All right, so if Georgia rolls into town and can average 5 yards a carry, you're in trouble. If Texas rolls into town averaging 4.5, 5 yards a carry, you're in trouble. If you play Ole Miss and they're averaging 4.5, 5 yards a carry, you're in trouble. You have to take something away. And USF looked at you and told you, and you couldn't stop it.
Well, if you're Wisconsin, who and I want both of you, Chad, I obviously want to know what you think as well. If you're Phil Longo, the offensive coordinator, you have a lot of air raid principles in what you do, which we live in a weird time in college football. Arizona State's a power run team. Wisconsin's running the air raid. Vanderbilt looks pretty good. I don't know what's going on. But if you're Wisconsin and you know, hey, Alabama did struggle against the run, we still have those big white Siberian cave trolls up front, whatever. Do you try and play keep away in this game and just build it off play action?
For Wisconsin?
For Wisconsin.
Oh, yes.
Or do you, with your air raid principles with Phil Longo, like, are you gonna say, you know what? Well, we can supplement the run with the pass and what we do because it's air raid. Because air raid is a lot of quick game, it is a lot of hitch, it is a lot of get the ball out quick, and that kind of supplements. You get the same effect if the ball is caught.
No, I think the first thing, I think they're going to play keep away. And just keep in mind, like Phil Longo, the air raid principles for him are mostly through the air.
Yeah.
The ground principles, he had two 1,100-yard rushers in the same season, I think,
it's in
for
Mike
North
Leach.
Carolina.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, completely different than Mike Leach. Not through the air, but on the ground game, I mean, I think they're going to hand the football off. You're going to see a lot of bash, a lot of counter, a lot of, they might try and spread them out wide with speed sweeps and stuff like that, too. They got to have everything going if you're going to stick mostly to the ground. But I agree with you, like managing the clock. And if that's the game you're going to play, then field position becomes paramount. And that brings me back to one more thing about the Michigan-Texas game that frustrated me. If you're going to play like that and you're going to be defensive team who runs the ball, you have to win field position, right? Like when you punt, it has to be effective. That's what we saw from Iowa. Right, we were rewatching the Iowa State game. Like it's when Iowa punts, it's an automatic. It's inside the 5 because if that's how you're going to play, you have got to win field position. So if that's the way Wisconsin's going to go, then yeah, don't ever find yourself on the short side of that.
What's the number at, Blaine? Do you have the number pulled up? It was at 16 and a half.
16.
What's the over under at?
51 and a half.
51 and a half. So again, there's a very narrow path for Wisconsin. But what I see happening is even if all that goes right, before we move on, let's say Wisconsin is able to run the ball and control the clock and limit Alabama's possessions, and the game is close late. I just don't see a way in which Wisconsin, outside of Alabama, reverting back to what they did early last year and a little bit last week, but they ran it with Milroe a decent amount, especially when they needed to. And Milroe just wants to sit in the pocket and prove to everybody that he's truly a pocket passer. If he starts running around and they start moving, I feel like this is a game where Jalen Milroe may run for 200 yards. I like Wisconsin. The plan will be good. Guys will be in place. They'll know where to be, but can they get there in time? Because, again, if I'm Alabama and I've got Jalen Milroe, who is a tank, not that you want to run him 40 times, but I am going to make you prove that you can stop Q power. I'm going to make you prove you can stop Q counter. I'm going to make you prove you can stop power read, obviously with the motion guy and the quarterback keeping it. It basically turns into Q power off a read play. And then I'm going to build my passing game off of that. Because once I'm hitting you with that, and you got to bring all the cheese and beer in Wisconsin in the box, well, that's when I find Ryan Williams. That's when I find Prentice. That's where I find all these guys on the outside. I just don't know a way in which, other than Alabama falling apart, that for 4 quarters, they can hem up Jalen Milroe.
So if I told you Jalen Milroe rushed for 200 yards in the game like you said, is that because he had an 85-yarder and a 75-yarder that were untouched and he used his speed and got away? Or is he having 15 carries and he's averaging 10 a pop?
Well, I would think he probably hit him for a 50-yarder in the first half, maybe a 30-yarder, and then in the second half when they got up 17, they just started really pounding that thing with Jam and those guys who got a hold on the ball. Like that's another thing. Bama's got a hold on the ball.
If it's me, I'm finding every way I can to run Jalen Milroe.
I know. I know he's a quarterback. I get it.
I watched Lamar Jackson get killed for 4 quarters.
Yeah.
Running as a quarterback, design quarterback runs. There is a reason he is here. He's not built like Bryce Young.
Yeah.
All right. He is a big, strong dude who can fly. Run him.
Yeah.
Run him. Let's go to Bama Baller 217. Says, guys, Excuse me. Says, I'm pretty confused on why we got under center in that goal line play. Can you please explain?
And David, it's so weird for me. I tweeted this out because all we talk about all the time is we'll never understand why people get to the one and then get in shotgun. And I know that Nick Sheridan and them, they have practiced it.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't seen it a lot in games. I can't remember. I know it's still early in the year, and maybe this is something they wanted to implement, and I like the thought process. But when you get in that point in the game and you are having success, and I know Alabama wasn't just blowing South Florida off the ball. South Florida held up pretty well. Not really against the quarterback run game, but against the running back run game. Is it worth it there in your mind? It's tough.
No.
I just think it's like, listen, Jalen Monroe's my best player. He's in the shotgun 99.99% of the time. We haven't committed to this, and I haven't been in practice. Maybe they've been great at it in practice, but doing it in practice, we call this the Peyton Thorne. You can do it well in practice, but if it doesn't work in the game, it doesn't matter. So that I can guarantee you, Kalen DeBoer's, they're probably not doing that again. That's probably thrown out.
To me, if you want to play quarterback at Alabama, you got to get a snap under. You got to get a snap anyway. I tell you, you got to get a snap. I'm sorry, that's just along.
I don't think you're wrong.
And I'm not. It might not have even been his fault. I'm talking about the center too. You got to be able to deliver a snap if you want to play center at Alabama. This is where the game has changed so much from when I played growing up. The standard was you get under center, and occasionally we'll get in shotgun. Now everybody's in shotgun because you're playing leverage, you're playing space. That's fine. You got to be able to go under center and get a snap if that's what we need. Now, what's the main thing we saw Alabama struggle with a year ago? And we even saw it in the Rose Bowl. Shotgun snaps, right? They were down at his ankles. They were everywhere. He was dropping them. It was bad. If that happened in the game on Saturday, the thing we could be saying is, why can't you just line up under center and get a snap on the 1 yard line?
That's why I'm saying that. It's just, again, you should be able to do it. Right? It's a different thing, but if I can ask you to run around and do play action and do all this, you probably ought to be able. If you can hit a three-pointer, you ought to be able to hit a free throw.
That was the most mad that I saw Sheridan in the box. I guarantee you he was thinking the same thing.
No, to quote him, "Are you effing?"
Yeah.
He didn't say effing. He said it kidding me. Hey, what's up, YouTube? It's football season, and what that means, subscribe or be lame. Choice is yours. It always is.